Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel? Which rookie has a better chance of winning the starting job by week 1? Find out coming up next in the Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Dog Pound? I'm Spencer German, your host of the Locked On Browns podcast. I'm proudly covering your Cleveland Browns each and every single day in the land and on the road. Which of the two rookie quarterbacks the Browns brought in has a better chance to earn the starting job week 1? I think a veteran probably has the inside track right now, but one has a better chance than the other, and I'll explain why. Inevitably, we can expect that Elijah Moore is destined to have a great season with the Buffalo Bills. But before we get to that, with their draft in the rearview mirror, I break down which position group I think is actually the strongest on the team now, and my answer might surprise you. I do want to thank you for being an everydayer with the Locked On Browns podcast, making this your first listen every single day. Remember, you can find Cleveland Browns content with Locked On Browns every week, Monday through Friday, guaranteed, with bonus content on some weekends as well, and it's totally free to you. Just hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you listen to your podcast, and, of course, the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. You can also get involved in the show by sharing your thoughts on anything we discuss in the comment section today. This is your team, so be part of the conversation every single day. And this episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox with no console needed. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. And yes, the Browns have two rookie quarterbacks. We're going to be duking it out with two veteran quarterbacks to try to earn that starting job. And I want to be clear, I think a veteran likely starts the season with that job. So I think both rookies are having an uphill climb to actually being the starter week 1 to begin with. I know we talked about this a little bit yesterday, the idea that, one of those veteran guys could get flipped at the end of training camp for a draft pick, and you keep the rookies on the active roster, the 53-man roster, while trading and getting something for one of the veteran guys you have. I sort of alluded to why I think Joe Flacco is the more likely one to get maybe moved at that time of year. We'll see. And that, I think that would mean and sort of pave the way for Kenny Pickett to start. And I do think it's kind of those two duking it out for the starting job and the other two duking it out for like positioning, jockeying for positioning, if you will, on the depth chart. So I want to make that clear off rip, because I think it's an uphill battle for both these rookies anyway. And I do think one of these veterans is going to start the season, if for nothing else, to sort of indicate to the team, hey, we're going for this thing. We're trying to win. We're trying to be competitive. Here's your veteran quarterback who's been there before to do it. You can sell a locker room on a rookie, but I don't know if you can sell a locker room on a rookie that was a third or fifth round pick, especially if you're sort of telling, because the next several months are going to be a lot of the Browns brass telling people, hey, they're learning, they're being coachable, they're developing. It's going to take time. I don't think they're going to rush to start either of these guys week 1 if they don't have to. So that's my read on the situation as a whole. But in terms of which one has the better chance of starting week 1, I desperately want to say Shedeur Sanders, because I think Shedeur has the talent to do it. I think he fits Stefanski's offense and what they want to do. I'm really excited about watching him go to work every day and see if he can earn that job and work his way up the depth chart and become that guy. It would be a phenomenal story if he did. But I also am realistic and understand the hand that the Browns are, or the situation the Browns are in. And frankly, they told you who they liked better as a prospect by the order that they took these quarterbacks in. They used a 3rd-round pick on Dylan Gabriel. Kevin Stefanski sat up at the press conference desk, and he talked glowingly with a big smile on his face. I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen him that happy in a press conference setting to be talking to the media than when he was talking about Dylan Gabriel and how much he enjoyed the pre-draft process with Dylan Gabriel and their meetings with him and the things that he brings to the table, how good of a player he is. All those different things come to mind. So there's a lot there that tells me they want him to succeed, that they're going to give him the opportunities to succeed. And that comes with the territory of being a 3rd-round pick. Like, this team used a top 100 pick on this guy. They were ridiculed in some respects for using a top 100 pick on a quarterback that everybody thinks is short and is no good and isn't going to bring anything to the table. So they're going to give him the first opportunities to sort of prove himself throughout the offseason, during training camp, preseason, etc. And so I just think because it's going to be a harder road for Shedeur, that I think like they're going to try to be right about Dylan Gabriel before they're right about Shedeur Sanders, which is interesting because, you had Andrew Berry say the day after they drafted Shedeur Sanders in the fifth round on day 3, you had him mention that they believe where they drafted Shedeur, he was going to outperform his draft slot. But what's interesting about that is like him outperforming his draft slot comes with the understanding that he's going to need the opportunities to do it. He's going to need the opportunities to actually play and prove that to people and to the Browns. There's only one quarterback. This isn't wide receiver where he can like play a different spot. If he's not the number one guy, fine, he can go play on the opposite side, or he can go play in the slot or whatever. Like this is quarterback. There's one guy out there at all times at the quarterback position. And so unless he's earning those reps, he's not going to get a chance to see and like prove what he can do necessarily. And I think they're going to give Dylan Gabriel the majority of those reps first. That's not to say Shedeur's not going to get any. During the offseason, they have 4 quarterbacks for a reason. They rotate through the guys. Training camp, you'll get to see them rotate through the guys. Preseason, they'll rotate through the guys. They have two joint practices this year. And so they're going to have opportunities to use those guys in those joint practices, but also let the starters take reps on those days. And then you'll see Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel primarily in both those preseason games after they have joint practices, because this team treats joint practices like real game settings. They love joint practices. Kevin Stefanski's gushed before about joint practices and the value in them and how they find them more useful than actual preseason games. So you will see both these guys in some capacity, and Shedeur certainly will have opportunities to outperform Dylan Gabriel, and that's going to be the key thing here, is if he does that and it's undeniable, they're going to have him higher in the depth chart. Or if, God forbid, they were going to make one of them the starter, he might have the inside track that way, but he's going to have to work and earn that, because I do think, like, while both have an uphill battle anyway, because they're not, number or first round picks, there's a legitimate conversation to be had when you draft somebody in the first round that they could start day 1, year 1, no questions asked. But with guys who are taken on, late day 2, not pick 94, and then, day 3, it's battling it out. It's giving them time to develop. And I also think too, because of that, Gabriel's going to have more time to develop and be given a longer runway to develop than Shedeur probably is, because of just by nature of where they were drafted. These teams don't like being wrong about third round picks or higher. They don't like being wrong about any picks, but they definitely want to be right about third round picks and top 100 picks. And so I think Gabriel has the inside track in that respect, if one of them is going to start this year over the other in terms of the 2 rookies. Now, again, I don't think that's going to happen. And I do think Shedeur is talented enough that he could earn this job and that he could really blow people away. And that I understand that a lot of us got the scouting report wrong on him, clearly, because he didn't go until the 5th round and teams were willing to pass on him for quite some time. So I definitely understand where, I'm not sitting here saying I'm a scouting expert, and there's clearly others out there who misunderstood how he was viewed in the NFL, in the sense of the NFL. But I still think there's immense talent there. I still think he has a chance to be a really good player. And yeah, I could see him outperforming Dylan Gabriel, but I just think they're going to try to do everything in their power to make Dylan Gabriel successful first. And then Shedeur will have those opportunities, but it's not not necessarily the same amount of reps all the time. And I think his route to the top is just going to be a little bit more difficult, a little steeper than Gabriel's is. And so if I'm thinking one is going to start over the other, it's probably Gabriel, just by nature of how this team views the 2 QBs. But I do think Shedeur, if he comes in and works hard and is coachable, as I talked about this week, I think he certainly has a path towards doing it. It's just going to be a little bit harder to get there than it is for Gabriel. But I hope it happens. Again, as a member of the media, I try to stay above the fray on these things, but I am truly rooting for Shedeur Sanders to be successful here. I want to see it happen, and I'm making that clear, because I know people think that I'm being I don't know. People seem to think I'm not being honest about my feelings on Shedeur. I am. I want to see this guy succeed, and if he does, it will be an amazing story, and there'd be a lot of star power at that position finally here in Cleveland if he's able to actually pull it off. Speaking of rookies, after the NFL draft, some revamped position groups. Which one is the strongest position group on the Cleveland Browns post-draft? I'll reveal my answer, and it might surprise you, coming up next in the Locked On Browns podcast. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game, and the playoffs are going on in Cleveland. That is for damn sure, because the Cavs are getting ready to play the Indiana Pacers. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment is going to feel massive. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be part of the action without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as you get closer to the opening tip, and you can save as much as 60% on tickets. Last year, I used Game Time for the first time. I bought tickets to see Ohio State, Michigan. First time at the game. Yes, disappointing result as an Ohio State fan, but it was still fun with my wife. We had a great time, and because I had such a good experience with buying tickets through Game Time, and is now my go-to app for buying tickets. In fact, I just bought tickets for her birthday to a concert later this fall. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Save up to 60% off buying last-minute tickets to sporting events, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Lowest prices guaranteed means I never have to worry about overpaying. Download the Game Time app. Use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. So as I think about the strongest position groups on this team post-draft, it does come with the caveat of we are projecting a lot of these things in across the board because there are players that we haven't seen play at the NFL level yet. So there is a lot of you got to, there is a lot of guessing going on here in some respects about which group is going to be the best, which group is the most talented, etc. There's a lot of potential to the answer when it comes to the answer to this question specifically. And so I'm keeping that in mind as I work through this question specifically. But I think the obvious choice, if you're talking about the best position group on this team, I do feel like is on the defensive side of the ball, defensive line. You got Myles Garrett there. I think they've done a pretty good job of replenishing the coffers here on the defensive line. You brought in Malik Collins to replace after you let go of Dalvin Tomlinson. Now you've drafted Mason Graham, number 5 overall, who I think is going to be a great talent at the NFL level. Really looking forward to watching him play next year because he's going to wreak havoc, particularly rushing the passer on the inside from the interior, while you have Myles Garrett outside drawing all kinds of attention. So really excited about Mason Graham. And I do think his presence makes that group even more stout and makes me feel like that's going to be the general go-to answer for most people, that the defensive line is the best position group on this team. And I think if that's your response and that's your answer, that's a fair response and answer. I think cornerback still has a case to be made, even though they didn't draft Travis Hunter and would have some extra depth there. I still I think that group, across the board, they're starting 3, including Greg Newsome in the nickel spot, are a pretty stout group, all things considered. When you got Denzel taking away half the field, Martin Emerson Jr., I think the truth is somewhere in the middle on him. He had a great first year, down second year. He's probably somewhere in the middle, which is a solid corner if that's how he ends up panning out. I think Cameron Mitchell has shown some promise as a backup sort of slot guy. So I think they feel pretty good about the cornerback room as is. But I still think defensive line on the defensive side of the ball is probably stronger, especially now that you added Mason Graham into the fold. But I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that I think the running back room is now the strongest position group on this team, given how they revamped that unit over the weekend during the NFL draft. There was a lot to like about the way they handled this draft and the guys they drafted. I mean, listen, this is more than just my love affair with Quinshon Judkins, which is a very true thing. I think he's going to be awesome for this team. His ability to, get downhill and run through guys, seek out contact, all those things has me excited about seeing him play at the next level. He's got 4.4 40 speed, and so when he breaks in the open, he's gonna be gone. He's gonna give you. I know he looked slower, I think, playing than Trayvon Henderson did at times, but I still think he's got that real speed with him, and I'm excited about him playing football for the Browns next year and being that sort of workhorse and that, or as Andrew Berry put it, the bell cow of that group. And that's on top of the fact that you had Dylan Sampson, who was another player I liked. I think there was at least one mock draft I did. I did so many. I think I did 6 or 7. I forget which one was which, but I do think there was a mock where I mocked the Browns drafting Dylan Sampson in the 3rd or 4th round. and feeling pretty good about it because I think as a player, he brings a lot to the table as one of these guys that can sort of see things well in front of him, make a cut and break through. He's shown a little bit more as a pass catcher, I think, than probably Quinshon Judkins has. I think that's an area Quinshon needs to improve. But you also have Jerome Ford, who's an established talent already in this group. I'm not saying Jerome Ford is a great running back. I think he's a solid to good running back. Like he's shown some things. He's proven in the years that Nick Chubb has been injured that he can be part of an effective, maybe this is the best way to put it. He can be a key component, a key player in a competent and competitive running back room. I don't know that he's like your lead guy. And clearly the Browns don't think he's like a lead guy because they went out and completely changed the complexion of their running back room with the moves that they made in the NFL draft by drafting 2 of them. But again, understanding that a lot of this is baked in the potential of players that we have yet to see, I feel really strongly about this running back room and their ability to turn this group around pretty quickly and turn this offense on its heels. Like that group is going to be so important to the success of this team and the success of this offense that it's not even like given how bad the offense was the last couple of years, finally having a group that has like a frontline starter feature guy and then a couple guys behind him who can spell him in different situations. And I'm envisioning this being Quinshon Judkins and then Sampson working in with Jerome Ford being maybe your third down guy and catching passes out of the backfield. Like there's a nice rotation of players that you can kind of establish here and feel pretty good about it. And so, yeah, I'm blown away. Like people were sort of ripping the Browns. There were some people ripping the Browns for like 2 running backs, 2 quarterbacks. And I get the Dylan Gabriel confusion and where that pick was made and why that pick was made. But like the 2 running back thing was not even remotely something I thought was thought to criticize whatsoever. It makes sense. It's a group that needed an overhaul, and they certainly overhauled it. Now, maybe there's still a path where Nick Chubb is back in this room, and then you feel even better about this group as a whole. I don't know that that's going to happen. I'm not banking on it. I might take moving on from Jerome Ford or trading Jerome Ford to potentially bring Nick Chubb back into the fold there. And that, I guess, could happen. But I think like what you see is what you get with this group right now, and this is what they're going to do going forward. And so because of that, I still feel really good about it. It's going to suck to see Nick Chubb go if that's how this plays out the rest of the way here. But at the same time, having 2 young backs that you feel good about, guys that you're going to get a chance to develop under Deuce Staley, who's a great running back coach, like this is a situation that is advantageous to a really productive offense and a really productive, a really productive run game, which when this offense and when Kevin Stefanski's system is at its best, it was always with a running back tandem in respect because it was Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb for a while there. It was always when they had a strong run game. 2020, 21, 22, they had strong run games, got away from it a little bit in 23. Try to get back to it, I think, late in the season last year because they know that was a strength of what Kevin Stefanski wants to do, even though he wasn't calling the plays at that point. But like the identity of this offense and this team starts with, hey, we got a good run game. We can do a lot of play action. Because the run game is such a threat. And on top of that, the 12 personnel, 2 tight end stuff where you get some extra blockers out there who can open up lanes for these guys to run through. So again, if your answer is going to be the defensive line, I get that. And I'm not going to push back on that because on the surface, that probably is the most talented group. But I'm going to sort of take a chance on betting that this running back room is the strongest position group because I like what they did with it. And I feel good about the 2 guys they brought in, some new, fresh infusion of talent into that group, into the offense, onto this team. And I'm excited about the potential of what that group can do next year in carrying this offense. And if they're going to be competitive, I think it's going to start with the fact that they have this new run game with some headline guys that can kind of carry the workload there. So really excited about that group. And I'm going to say that's the strongest one on the team. What do you think is the strongest position group on the team? I can tell you it's probably not wide receiver, and another receiver's off the board if the Browns are trying to reunite with him. We'll talk about who that is and what's left for the Browns on the free agent market in terms of wide receivers coming up next on the Locked On Browns podcast. Did you know that your Fire TV Stick is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controllers, subscribe or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you'll be ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all available to you on your Fire TV. I can tell you, we are a Fire TV Stick household. We have one on every single TV in our house. And if you ever find yourself flipping between apps that and looking for the one that just houses everything for you, Fire TV Stick 4K has everything in one place, easy to find, from Netflix to YouTube, Disney Plus and beyond. It's an easy way to access your favorite shows, movies, streaming services. And now that I know about the Xbox setup, I don't have an Xbox at home, but I may just give this a try because I do like gaming. And if it's that simple and I just got to get myself a controller, sign me up for that. You can too. If you hook it up now, head to amazon.com/FireTVLockedOn to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, and Fire TV Cube. So if the Browns are looking for more wide receiver help, they just lost one of their options. And a familiar face, Elijah Moore. He is going to Buffalo, a one-year deal worth up to $5 million. This was kind of an expected outcome after they used the unrestricted free agent tender on him, which is a rare lever that some GMs pull. It's actually been used twice this year, and I've never heard of it until this year. So you learn something new every season in the NFL. And basically, I explained this the other day, but I'll explain it again. It allows the Browns to now guarantee that Elijah Moore will be part of the compensatory pick format, because the only free agents that get used in the compensatory pick formula that allows teams to get compensatory picks based on the free agents that they lose and gain each year are ones who sign between the start of the new league year and the Monday after the NFL draft. So they basically extended him like a tender offer that was like $3.4 million. And it would be for 1 year if he signed it, but he decides to instead sign with Buffalo, get a deal worth up to $5 million. And so money, obviously the biggest factor there, on top of, well, hey, you're going to a place where you have a chance to win a Super Bowl. And I'm just going to say it. I think it's probably a good idea to just assume that Elijah Moore is going to have like a career season. I know he kind of had a career season this past year in the sense of he had more catches than he's ever had, 61 receptions he had in 2024. And so, you know, here's the thing with Elijah Moore for me is like, it's never been really about Elijah Moore. Like, he's been a fine receiver. I think he's a solid option, a solid number 3 on a team. But the problem is the quarterback play, I really think hindered his performance. Deshaun, it seemed like he would get open and then it would seem like Deshaun just never really saw him when he was starting under center. And then he had this carousel of mediocre quarterback play for most of the last 2 years, with his best games coming, believe it or not, with Joe Flacco, the same way David Njoku had a lot of success under Joe Flacco during that 5-game stretch at the end of 2023. So, like, I think there would have been some, like, if you had brought him back, there's reason to think that he could have still put up some decent numbers with somebody like Flacco maybe starting the season to start things out. And I liked the idea of him just kind of being your fallback plan if things didn't go awry. Instead, or if things went awry, or you didn't address it in the draft the way they did. But instead, he goes to Buffalo, and the Browns settle for Deontay Johnson earlier this week. And again, I'm not reading too much into Deontay Johnson because I just get the sense, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he's not even on this roster. But he's a head case. He's not the type of guy you want around your locker room. I don't like that they made this move, but I get what they're trying to do because they're banking on the talent being there and, finding this guy who maybe they can turn around. And this is what the Browns do. They try to rehabilitate everybody. So they'll try it with him. I doubt it's going to work because he's very much a me guy, and we know that about him at this point in his career. And so it's no surprise that that would be the case. But I am sort of interested in being able to I am interested in maybe a couple guys that are out there on the open market for the NFL still. One of them being Keenan Allen, who's near the top of the list of guys still available in free agency at this point. It's slim pickings. So I get that, like, you're sort of scraping the bottom of the barrel anyway, but Keenan Allen's still out there at 33. I'm not saying he is still Keenan Allen from, 4 or 5 years ago, but I think he still has something left in the tank despite all the injuries that he can still put up some numbers. I mean, last year he still had 740 yards on 70 receptions and he caught 7 touchdowns. And 2 years ago he had 1,200 yards. So I think if he can stay healthy, he can still do some things. He's the type of player I would take a flyer on. Now, maybe price tag is something that keeps you out of the conversation for Keenan Allen, although I don't know at this point if he can really demand a ton. He's still available as a free agent, and no one's really biting. But listen, I'd be fine with Keenan Allen. Old friend Amari Cooper is still out there. And what I'll say on Amari Cooper is I think that ship has sailed. I think the way things went down last year, they traded him. He didn't really seem like he wanted to be here. He was disinterested. All of that leads me to believe that there's no reconciling that thing. I think they've gone their separate ways. I don't think we have to wish and hope that he comes back, even though I still think Amari Cooper might have something left in the tank. Last year was a weird year for him, but he's still only 30. Like, I know that's the wrong side to be on, but I still think he can give you something if you were to bring him back. A couple other guys, Tyler Boyd as a slot guy sort of entices me. I'm not saying Tyler Boyd's going to put up massive numbers. He never has in his career, but maybe again, with a steady presence at quarterback like Joe Flacco, you could get something out of him. DJ Chark's intriguing because he's still under the age of 30. I could see something there where maybe they brought him in as another body to see what he could do. And I'm going to be honest, you can tell it's desperate times because I've generally disliked somebody like Nelson Aguilar as a player and just felt like, how has he bounced around as much as he has and had so many opportunities? But I'll tell you, he's still out there, and to be a guy that could still maybe give you like 30 receptions a game at the age of 31 or 30 receptions in a season at 31 years old and maybe like 300 to 400 yards and a couple touchdowns, that does intrigue me at this point because desperate times call for desperate measures, and the Browns wide receiver room is a pretty dire situation right now. So those are some of the names that are left. I don't love really any of them, but this is the hand the Browns have been dealt. And I do think, by the way, that their wide receiver room being what it looks like right now is kind of a indication that going back to Stefanski's offense, you're going to see a ton of 12 personnel. You're going to see a ton of 2 tight ends. They're going to really work with Harold Fannin and David Njoku, and that's going to kind of be the way that they go with this thing. That's my read on it. Now, that doesn't mean you still don't need more wide receiver help, but the fact that they prioritized that position over wide receiver tells me they don't necessarily think they're going to be in a lot of 3 and 4 wide receiver sets. So we'll see, but that's another sort of, I think, point to make here as they have a very scarce wide receiver free agent group to choose from. You don't have a lot of good options, but maybe they won't be utilizing many of these guys anyway because they're just going to run out and trot out a lot of 12 personnel. We shall see. But another episode down with you, Dog Pound. Appreciate you stopping by, as always. And I do want to remind you that on Friday's episode, you're going to want to tune in. We have Alex Bayer, who is the special teams coordinator for Bowling Green, but was the tight end coach for Harold Fannin Jr. at Bowling Green the last couple years. Excited to pick his brain about all things Harold Fannin. Who are the Browns getting in their new tight end? We'll talk about it with him tomorrow, so make sure you hit subscribe to the podcast and make us your first listen every single day. For your second listen, check out Locked On NFL Scouting, or you can keep it local. Check out Locked On Cavs or Locked On Guardians. Thank you for being an everydayer at the Locked On Podcast Network. I will talk to you again real soon, Cleveland. See ya.